Hey there peeps, on this edition of Meathead Mondays with yours truly, Lady Meathead, aka Antonia from A1 Fit Coaching, we are going to get into how to track your macros. So super hot topic, we are going to dive into why macro calculators are trash and what you can do about it on your own. So sit tight, here we go. There are a number of different macro calculators out there, some of which I'll highlight in just a moment, that you can go and get on the interwebs. You put in your information and they spit out some numbers for you that are related to your total calories that you should be eating per day, either for maintenance or to work towards your goals, and your macronutrient breakdowns. All of these macro calculators are based off of different calculations to find your BMR or base metabolic rate. However, the issue is that with these different calculations, there is actually a lot of room for error. One recent study from 2020 showed that some calculations can get as close to a 10% margin of error. However, this is only for 2/3 of the women that were surveyed. So this means that at minimum, 30% of you are not going to get a correct answer. And the other things that can change how accurate this is if you are anywhere outside of the average parameters, which include, a moderate height and weight and age between like about 25 to 45 years old. So if you're really overweight, if you're really lean, these generic calculations are not going to work for you. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at some of the different calculations that I received when I was looking up some examples to show you guys. So the very first one we're going to take a look at is from Precision Nutrition. This is one of my favorite ones just because it accounts for a lot of different lifestyle pieces. But I'm not a big fan of their default ratio that they use of 35-30-35 carbs, protein, fat, and we'll get into that a little bit more coming up. But Precision Nutrition gave me 2313 maintenance. So Precision Nutrition 2313. Calculator.net gave me 1875. HealthyEater.com gave me 1855, and I thought this was funny. They gave me the high protein as the default, which is only 118 grams of protein per day for me, a woman that weighs 143 pounds. We'll get into why that's ridiculous in a moment. And then last but not least, by the government, from the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, they gave me 2475. So as you can see, the lowest response that I got was 1855 and the highest was 2457. So this is about a 600 calorie difference between these nutrition calculators, which is huge. So now we know that nutrition calculators are not exact. Well, how the heck do you figure out what your maintenance calories are? Before I go and start explaining about how to figure out what your maintenance calories are, I wanted to get into this because this is really fucking important and people skip over this, they glaze over this all of the time. In order to effectively lose fat, recomp your body, gain muscle, to do any of these things that you're trying to do by tracking macros, you first need to figure out what the fuck your maintenance is. Your maintenance is going to be the level at which you can eat and not gain or lose any weight. So it's really important that when you get started on this process, you have a regular workout routine, your activity is pretty moderate, and the number one thing that you need to do, here we go, get out your pen and pencil, to get started to figure out what your maintenance is that you need to track absolutely everything that you eat for 1 to 2 weeks. 2 weeks are preferable. This is not modifying your habits in any way, just tracking everything that you eat. So get your tracking tools, and you also need to get your body stats. So that means that you need to weigh yourself every single day. So women, if you are going to be on your period over this period of time, do not do it right now, okay? Do it in the middle of your cycle. So we need to take your weight every day. We need to take pictures, usually at the beginning and at the end of that should suffice. And then we also need to take your body measurements, at least your chest, waist, and hips at minimum. So this is the part of the process where it's really handy to have a coach because people love to graze over this and they don't see how it's important. But guys, this is fucking essential because without knowing what your maintenance calories are, we can't make an educated decision about what to do next to help you reach your goals. Okay? So once you've done this, then we need to take a look at what some of these calculators say is probably your maintenance calories, because a lot of times what we'll find is that there's actually a pretty large discrepancy between the amount that you say that you're eating and then also the amount that these calorie trackers say. So one more caveat before we go in deeper here is that most people aren't very good at tracking their calories. They're anywhere from 80%, 85% underreporting to 35% overreporting. So just know that even if you're not the best at tracking your calories, at least we know that you're being consistent in everything that you do track. This is another place where it's great to have a coach, because I can help you dial in how you're tracking all of your macros to get an even more precise response. All right, so now you go on the interwebs, you go to maybe the Precision Nutrition Calculator, which, like I mentioned, is one of my favorites, and you calculate what your maintenance calories are. If there's a big difference between what you were tracking for those 2 weeks and what those maintenance calories are suggested, then the next step is going to be to increase a little bit at a time until you reach close to that level, once again monitoring all of your body stats, okay, to see if your maintenance is actually higher than what you think it is, right? Sometimes we can push it a little bit and get a higher number. And the reason for this is because, especially before we start dieting, we always want to diet at the highest level of calories possible. Very, very important. All right. So now for the next part, what is the best way and how do I personally calculate my clients' macros? Well, what I like to do is I, first of all, take an average of several different calculators on the internet. Then I go ahead and do a longhand way of calculating people's macronutrients. And I base this off of the International Society of Sports Nutrition's standards, because there are some very, very key, important take-home points, big exclamation point things that they mention that we're not going to get anywhere else. One of those, for example, being that the RDA amounts of protein are actually about half of what they should be, even for general population people who exercise maybe 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week at a moderate intensity. According to the ISSN, we're going to go into 2 buckets, which most of you people are going to fall into. One is that you are moderately active for 2 to 3 days a week for, 30, 45 minutes. Let's say you go to Zumba 2 or 3 times a week, yoga 3 or 4 times a week. You like to go for walks. This is going to be you. The second group of people we're going to call our Gen Pop athletes. These are for people who are strength training rigorously, that are doing powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit for an hour to 3 hours a day, about 5 to 6 times per week. Okay. So for the first population, the ISSN recommends that between 18 and 2,400 calories a day should hit the bill, and your breakdown of carbs, protein, and fat are going to be 45 to 55%, 15 to 20%, and 25 to 35%. Once again, this is where working with a coach comes in handy, because we can modify these based on your lifestyle and how you like to eat to make this work for you. Also, very important is that they say that protein requirements, even for this group of people who isn't super fucking active, should actually be about twice as much as the RDA is. Once again, lots of science. Happy to share that with you. This is the abbreviated version. Don't forget, Meathead Mondays. Okay, so this means that to get this calculated, first you want to figure out, based off of 25 to 35 calories per kilogram of mass that you have, so per kilogram of weight that you weigh right now, you want 15 to 20% of that to be protein, and you also need it to be anywhere between 1.6 grams per kilogram to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So in pounds, this is about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. All right. And you want to aim for a minimum of about 20 grams of protein per meal to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, which is very important for many reasons, for another post. For the recreational athlete, so anyone that's doing weightlifting, powerlifting, endurance training for a marathon, triathlete, something like that, these are going to be you guys. Okay. The ISSN suggests that you need more like 2,000 to 7,000 calories per day. Once again, this depends on your activity. And you're also going to need to be on the higher end of protein and carbohydrates that were recommended for just the regular Gen Pop people that like to keep moving, all right? What's really important here is that your fat not go under about 20%, because fat is a very important macronutrient, just as important as carbs and protein, and that your protein needs to be between 2 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So this means upwards of 1 gram per pound of body weight. This means I weigh 143 pounds, which means I need at least 143 grams of protein per day for the types of activities that I like to participate in. The other thing that's really important here to keep in mind is that you're going to need probably more than the 20 grams of protein per meal to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. You're actually probably going to need about 40. All right. So, long-winded answer here, but I give you all of the tools that you need to be able to calculate this. So to summarize, first, track all your shit for 1 to 2 weeks. Second, take an average of the macro calculators, compare that to the ISSN's recommendations, find what your true maintenance should be. Third step, if there's a large difference of probably 300 to 400 calories difference between what you regularly eat and the recommended amount, keep on tracking everything you do and try to get closer to those ratios. Once you reach those numbers, where you hit the tipping point, you start to gain weight, your weight starts to change in one way or another, okay? This is when we know that we've found your true maintenance. And from this point on is where you guys can do the things that you originally set out to do, like gaining or losing weight, building muscle, blah, 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 blah. I know that there was a shit ton of information in here, and I didn't do it to overwhelm you, but I wanted to give you a comprehensive overview of how you can figure this out for yourself. If you still have any questions, I'm actually putting together a really fucking sick nutritional ebook that's going to have all of this information from all of these many episodes of Meathead Mondays all about nutrition, the one from last week and from a few of the following weeks that we're going to be talking about. And that should be coming out at the beginning of September. So make sure that you are on my mailing list. The link to sign up for that is going to be somewhere around this video, depending on where you're watching it. As always, I'm happy to share my As always, I'm happy to share my research references with all of you. That was a tongue twister. And so let me know if you want those, or once again, the links will be somewhere around this video. That is it for today. This is Antonia from A1 Fit Coaching, aka Lady Meathead. And I will see you guys next week on next week's edition of Meathead Mondays.